Okay, be honest, how many times have you thought, oh, I need to make dinner, but I'm absolutely exhausted and the last thing I want right now is a pile of dishes? Too many times, if you ask me. Which is exactly why I love one pot meals. Weeknights can be really, really busy, but making sure that you're eating well is so important. So in this video, I'll be sharing 3 of my favorite one pot meals that will make your life easier and tastier. I'm talking no more juggling 5 different pans at the same time, no hour-long cleanups, just simple, delicious, exciting dinners cooked all in one pan. Less time cooking, less time cleaning, and more time actually enjoying your evenings. We're starting off strong with my one pot gochujang rice with oodles of vegetables and protein. First up, you want to get your extra firm tofu. I use this tofu brand because it's just great, but a lot of supermarkets now have their own branded extra firm tofu. So just go for whichever brand you fancy the most. Now we're just slicing the tofu into bite-sized cubes and then setting that aside. Now if you're looking to add a little bit more of meat-based protein to this recipe, I would definitely recommend either slicing up some chicken thighs and adding that in, or you can either make them or just buy them pre-made, some kind of pork meatball situation. That would also be really delicious. Next up, we're going to prepare the rest of the vegetables. So I've got an aubergine or an eggplant for those of you in the US, and we're slicing it into little wedges. Next up, get some carrots and slice it into little cubes. The best and safest way to do this is by slicing an edge off of the carrot, turning it on its side so that it's stable, and then slicing the rest of the carrot in that manner. Does that make sense? I've tried to kind of provide a little video to show you. Another great vegetable for this dish is pak choy or bok choy. I love the crunch from the white part of the vegetable and the leafiness from the green part. Lastly, we're using edamame beans and sweet corn for extra colour and vibrancy. But one of the main reasons why I love this dish is because it's a great way to use up any leftover vegetables or meat that you've got in your fridge. Or freezer, to be honest. Got leftover frozen peas? Use them. Leftover cabbage? Slice that bad boy up and whack it in. It's honestly so customizable, so just feel free to use whatever you've got on hand and add anything in you fancy. Grab yourself a non-stick saucepan or frying pan and make sure it has a lid because we're wanting the rice to steam so that it all cooks evenly. Now for this recipe, we're actually going to be using jasmine rice, but honestly you can kind of use whatever rice you've got on hand. This would go really well with short grain rice, for example, like sushi rice, or you could also use long grain rice. So for this specific recipe, obviously we're using jasmine rice. It's quite fragrant, it's really nice, I just love it. So we're actually going to be using 250 millilitres of rice and then adding 300 millilitres of vegetable stock or chicken stock. This just adds an extra flavour that you're going to appreciate in the dish. You can just use water if you like, but stock is always just going to give you that next level flavour. Now for the fun part, I love to arrange my vegetables around the pan like a clock. So I go in with my aubergines first, then followed by my carrots and the pak choy at the bottom. Then we're placing the tofu right in the center, and then we've got the sweet corn at 3 different parts of the dish, followed by the edamame beans as well. Obviously you don't have to make it this structured, you can just whack it all in. Now for the sauce, this is where a lot of our flavor comes in. We're gonna start off by using some light soy sauce. You can also use dark soy sauce if you like that deeper color, but the light soy sauce will give us a saltier flavor. So you could use a mixture of both if you fancy as well. I just bought this soy sauce from my local supermarket, but to be honest, I always try and buy kind of Asian pantry ingredients from Asian grocery stores because they just do taste that bit better. And so I'll tend to buy one of those massive bottles of soy sauce, dark soy sauce and light soy sauce, and so they last me for ages. But I just haven't been in a while and I really need to do a restock. Okay, next up we've got sesame oil for that lovely toasted flavor. If you're allergic to sesame or you just don't like it, then you can use kind of any different kind of nut oil, like walnut or peanut oil would be really good. Rice wine vinegar to add a lovely bit of acidity and tang, and then for some sweetness we're using honey. But you could absolutely use sugar, agave or maple syrup would work really well too. Now for the main flavor bomb, gochujang, which I am very evidently running out of. Panic! For those of you who haven't used it before, you are in for a treat. It's a Korean fermented red pepper paste and it's phenomenal. Imagine like a slightly sweet, slightly spicy, slightly smoky, sticky, delicious paste. It's just got a completely, totally unique flavour and it's just brilliant. I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but once you try it, you'll probably become addicted. So I am warning you. It's pretty widely available nowadays, really, in like your local everyday supermarket. But if you can't find it, then it will definitely be in your Asian supermarket. Or you can try and look for it online as well. For freshness, we've got garlic and ginger. I really, really recommend using the fresh stuff. But if you've only got garlic granules or ginger powder, then go for it, or just leave it out, to be honest, if you're not that bothered. But yeah, fresh stuff is always best. Now give everything a really good mix. Taste it if you like. It will be quite strong because obviously once we mix it with all of the ingredients, it will spread and become a lot more subtle once we mix it in with everything else. Okay, so pour all of that sauce over your pan so that it's evenly spread, and then place on your lid. You wanna bring your pan up to the boil. You'll be able to hear the kind of bubbles bubbling away, but you'll also be able to see it, hopefully. If you've got a see-through lid, you can kind of see. Otherwise, just like pop your head in and have a look if the water is bubbling. Once it's bubbling, reduce the heat down to low and put on a timer for 10 minutes. Now repeat after me. Don't take off the lid. Just don't do it. be patient, my friend. Once your timer goes off, leave the lid on, turn off the heat, and just leave it to rest for another 5 minutes. This trick I actually learned when I worked in restaurants, and it basically just steams the rice and lets the water slightly evaporate so that it becomes all fluffy and delicious. Otherwise, if you take the lid off straight away, the rice will still have that like slightly al dente texture to it, whereas leaving it just steams it, makes it fluffy, delicious. The result will be a flavorful, fluffy, healthy, beautiful rice dish that serves 4. So either you can divide the rice between 4 different bowls, or you can just serve up your own dish and then save the rest for later. Now, in terms of storage, I would leave the rice to cool and then place it in Tupperwares. Make sure to label it with the date and what the contents are. You can either store it in the freezer for up to 3 months or just store it in the fridge for up to 3 days and have it throughout the week. To reheat it from the fridge, you want to either put it in the microwave with a lid ajar and heat it until it's piping, or you could reheat it on a stove top in a saucepan until it's like really, really hot. Now, I love to top my rice with spring onions and togarashi seasoning, but like you could just use sesame seeds, or chili oil is really good too. If you want a little bit extra sauce, then remake some of the gochujang sauce that we made earlier and then just drizzle that over the top. That would be so, so delicious, just for an extra bit of sauciness. You could also add a fried egg on top. That would be so scrumptious. So yeah, I really hope you enjoy it. Next up, we have a 1-pan dish that is one of my personal favorites for when I want something exciting but unbelievably simple. It's my harissa chicken tray bake, which on this occasion I've actually served up in a pitta, and it is so, so darn good. So first up, you want to get that oven on to around 200 degrees fan, 220 degrees non-fan, or 425 Fahrenheit. Slice your red onions in half, top and tail them, and then remove their skins. Slice them into thirds so it looks like this. You could also use white onions if you like, but I feel like the red onions just provide like a deeper caramelized flavor that I love, but totally up to you. Red and yellow peppers, super high in vitamin C and just all around fantastic. We're going to slice them into chunks so that they don't burn. If you don't have peppers, then feel free to use aubergines or eggplants. Butternut squash is also a great option. Just make sure to slice it into kind of smaller cubes because it will take longer to cook. Or carrots. Once again, I would love cutting them into wedges. That'd be really nice, like kind of chunky wedges, like this big and this small. Blink. Next up, get some fresh garlic and just leave them whole, but remove the skin. This will add a lovely all-round flavor to the dish. But if you're a bit sensitive to garlic, feel free to use garlic granules and just sprinkle that all over everything. But just use a little bit, maybe like a 1/4 teaspoon or 1/2 teaspoon, depending on how strong your garlic granules are. Honestly, it just depends on the company and the brand, you know? Oh, struggle. Okay, now that we have all of our elements ready, get your favorite baking tray or baking dish and add in your bell peppers and your red onions. You guys know how much I love the Bold Bean Company. We're adding a whole jar of these delicious, plump, gorgeous chickpeas to our tray. We're removing the liquid because we don't want anything to stew in our tray. We want everything to be pretty dry, but also the chicken will create juices, which is just such, oh, delicious. If you're not a fan of chickpeas, then I would recommend either using butter beans, cannellini beans, kidney beans, borlotti beans, or lentils would also be really nice as well. For our main source of protein, we are using chicken thighs. I love chicken thighs, especially roasting them because they're so moist, it's really difficult to actually dry them out. Whereas if you use something like chicken breast, it just can dry out so quickly, like within a matter of minutes. So I definitely recommend using chicken thighs. If you fancy a different type of meat, you basically want to choose something that has a high fat content. So you can make meatballs using a high fat ground pork mince, beef mince, chicken mince, but another good option would be salmon fillets, or cod too would also be really good. It'd be like really nice and flaky. For those of you looking to keep this vegan, sub out the chicken for kind of bigger chunks of extra firm tofu, or you could just substitute it out with lots of different vegetables. So you could add in little florets of broccoli, portobello mushrooms, which would be lovely and meaty and chunky, or little cauliflower florets. Okay, for the sauce, which once again is my favorite part, our star of the show is harissa paste, which is a North African chili paste, and it is so yummy. The one I'm using is by Belazu, which is a brand that is kind of pretty easy to find in most supermarkets nowadays. It's reasonably mild in spice. Now what you want to look out for is a lot of more authentic harissa pastes can be pretty strong and have a real kick, so just bear that in mind based on the one that you're buying and using. Now, for those of you who don't have harissa paste, a few other sauces that I would recommend using for this tray bake are sriracha, chipotle sauce, or a combination of tomato paste and paprika. So I would probably do 2 tablespoons of tomato paste with 1 teaspoon of paprika and give it a mix with some olive oil, and then that can be your harissa replacement. Okay, so add harissa to a bowl, followed by paprika, cumin, salt, and olive oil. Give it a good mix and it should look gorgeously red. Now you want to drizzle the sauce all over your tray and then mix everything in so every single ingredient is covered by the sauce. Place it into the oven for 20 to 25 minutes and make sure to shake the tray, give it a little toss after about 15 minutes. Now you probably already know this, but every oven is different. So if your oven has a tendency to be overly hot, for example, then reduce my recommended temperature by about 10 degrees or 50 Fahrenheit. Essentially, you want the result of the dish to be that there are tiny little bits that are slightly charred, which adds a really, really nice flavor, but everything is evenly cooked and not burnt. If you start seeing the tray to really start burning, then definitely turn down the temperature of the oven a bit and give everything a really good toss. So whilst the dish is in the oven, we want to make our topping sauce, the cherry on top. So combine harissa paste, honey and lemon juice. Once again, if you don't have honey, then you can use agave or maple syrup. You could also just use sugar as well. Give it a good old mix and set it aside. Once your harissa tray bake is ready, remove it from the oven and get your pittas into the toaster, microwave them or put them in the oven to heat up. Top the pitta with yogurt, then a gorgeous scoop of the tray bake ingredients. Top with tangy feta, chopped fresh parsley, and your honey harissa sauce. I mean, would you look at that? It's heaven on a plate if you ask me. Now I ate this with a pitta, but then later on I actually just had it on its own. So you could serve it with pasta, with potatoes, with rice, crusty bread, whatever floats your boat. But it is really delicious by itself. I really, really hope you enjoy it because I did. The next dish we're gonna make is one of comfort, but also one that you can serve to guests and they will be seriously impressed. But it's like so easy. It's my one pan boursin pasta. Now this holds a dear place in my heart because I grew up in France, and if you didn't know, boursin is a French cheese. And there was an advert that came out whilst we were living there that all of my friends and I and our families would always repeat because it was just so catchy, and also it was just kind of the epitome of French living, and it went du pain, du vin, du boursin. It's all you really need in life, to be honest, with some friends, obviously. So this is a creamy, lemony and cheesy pasta dish that I guarantee will make your evening weeknights more fun and definitely more delicious. Radio, first up. You're gonna get a deep, wide dish for me, or you can just use a saucepan, totally up to you. We do not need a lid for this one, FYI. Place it on medium heat and drizzle with olive oil, then add in some sliced shallots and garlic. You can also use white onions if you fancy. I don't know, I just really love the sweetness of shallots. They're just really cute. We're also adding in some chili flakes, but feel free to omit them if you're not a fan of spice, or add in more later on if you are a fan of spice. I feel like a teaspoon is a good amount, but once again, depending, you do you, honey. Now you want to fry that all off for about 5 to 10 minutes until the shallots have softened. Make sure that your garlic doesn't burn, so keep it on a low to medium heat and just keep stirring it until the shallots have kind of caramelized slightly. Then add your boursin to the center of the dish and scatter the pasta around the outside. We're using rigatoni for this recipe, but honestly, any smallish pasta would work. Cover the pasta with vegetable or chicken stock. You really want that stock to be covering the pasta. So I think in the recipe I've said 500 milliliters, but if that's not covering your pasta, then add in a bit more. And then you want to grate in the zest of a lemon. Bring that up to the boil and then reduce the heat slightly to simmer the pasta. Make sure to stir everything frequently because otherwise the pasta will stick to the bottom, and we do not want that. You can start to kind of break up the boursin and create this deliciously creamy sauce. Oh. Once your sauce starts to get really thick and it's cooked for about 10 minutes, taste your pasta. And if it's undercooked, add another 100 milliliters of water or so and cook on a low heat until the pasta is cooked and the sauce is reduced again to the thickness of your liking. We're then grating a load of parmesan into the dish and sprinkling with finely chopped parsley. Honestly, this is such a deliciously easy one-pot pasta dish that I think you're going to love. So make sure to give it a go and let me know if you like it. Thank you so much for cooking with me. It's been super fun. If you like this video, then check out this one right here. Feel free to subscribe if you want to hang out some more. Happy cooking, and I'll see you soon.